My name is Adi, and I came to planet Earth with many of you, and this is not our first time here, to support this absolutely remarkable, unprecedented shift of consciousness that is taking place in this decade. This is a change like we have never seen before. It is the expansion of consciousness like we have never seen before on this planet. It is a complete change. It is not just a little improvement. It is rewriting everything you've ever known, the entire collective of humanity, the systems we have, the way that our body operates, the way that our mind, emotions operate. Everything is changing. Some of you received very powerful activations in 2020. These activations started to be delivered actually in 2019. But in 2020, our consciousness was really bombarded with new coding, new activations in terms of light, energy, expansion. And so for those of you who are seers, who have seen it or who see it, then you know that you have changed immensely in just 1 year. So in 2021, many of us are completely different and eternally changing even more so. And for many of us also, we might not have seen anything or felt anything, but yet these changes are happening. They are happening on the genetic level. As our DNA changes, of course, our consciousness changes. As the planetary energy changes, our bodies change as well. Everything right now maybe seems subtle to you, and to some of you actually it doesn't seem subtle at all. It's a big change. I personally received dozens of activations in 2020. They were completely what I would call science fiction, something I personally have never seen before. Some of us, we say we were born spiritual and we were born with a mission. There's a very good reason for that, because when you send beings on a mission, you don't want them to spend 30 or 40 years trying to figure it out, even though that's okay. Everything's okay. In the big cosmic body of creation, everything is okay. There is no rush. But right now, right here, there are many of us who have always known and who always had spiritual experiences, who had training on the inner planes with master beings and beings from other places in our galaxy or different dimensions. And some of us even know that we are multidimensional beings and we have visited many different dimensions. For me, 2020 was definitely a year of daily science fiction with these activations. And I was wondering what they all will actually lead to. And now in 2021, I really feel that we have been rewritten and we will be rewritten even more so. There will be a lot of galactic events, solar events, planetary events. It will just be a ride from now on. Total change of all that we have ever been. And ever is a word that doesn't really explain what has happened on planet Earth. We've been here, not maybe necessarily in these bodies, for millions of years, but the inception of life on planet Earth took place a very long time ago. And that's when my memories personally start, with the inception of life on planet Earth. So this is kind of like a big overview of what's happening on planet Earth, but it's always good to understand the big picture. The big picture, the biggest picture we can actually comprehend, is the picture where all beings are stars. Some shine very bright, some not so bright just yet. And we are all in this cosmic body of creation that we can call cosmos. Source light pours out as life force, as mother's milk, into all beings. And some beings have developed an amazing openness to source light. And that also means they can receive source light to the full capacity of what's being offered. Now, some beings are still working on the openness, on maturity, and everybody's just learning to be more and more and more open to source light. That's all. That's the big picture of creation. Every star, every being is valuable. There are zillions of beings. We have 12 dimensions within which we exist. We are multidimensional beings having experiences that are parallel. And so everything exists within this cosmic body, whether it is physical or non-physical. But the key is that every being is just learning to become more of itself. And you cannot become more of yourself if you don't have experiences. Experiences do not really happen without having some kind of realities. Now, these realities always are, no matter in which dimension you are. These realities are holograms. They are dreams. They are cosmic dreams. Now, some of them you create yourself, but some of them are what I would call the base reality. So let's say you come to planet Earth and there seems to be a base reality. It seems to be something that we all see, we all perceive, and we are really constructed in a way so that we believe that what is here is our reality. And that works also for other worlds. So if you go to the worlds that we would call angelic, it again is a dream hologram. In a way, there is nothing ever real, and yet it is necessary. We need these holograms as our training. Think of it as a computer game where every game is a little different, but actually it's just different stages within the game. So now we are in this stage of earthly existence, but we can go to the, let's say, 7th dimension, 9th dimension, and have a completely different base reality within which we learn new skills and within which we learn more about how source functions. And again, the key of this game is very simple, or the goal, to open up as much as possible, reliably, consciously, with skills and reliability to source energy, to receive it, to mix whatever you receive within your energetic heart, which you have in all dimensions. The energetic heart is a transmitter, and from that you transmit the fullness of what you received out into the entire cosmos to nourish creation and to exchange with all other beings that are receptive to your transmission. So that's it. You receive, you mix in your heart, and then you transmit. It's very simple. And again, for that, you need to face realities. You need to face situations. You need to go through training. And the only way to do that is within these holograms. So in our hologram, what is it that's happening? We are actually shifting to a new hologram, because the hologram that we had so far actually became kind of, I call it like a hijacked hologram. And it's a hologram where beings, they are in a dream, they are in a hologram, but they forgot. And when you forget that you are in a hologram, what happens is that you start believing it is so real that you stop using life force, which is the mother's milk, which is what sustains life, and you stop using it consciously. And if you start using it unconsciously, that's what creates problems. It actually creates suffering. It creates what we call karma. And what it really is that all life force was intended to be used with creative consciousness for constructive results. That means you receive life force, you put it in your heart, it actually flows there. And then out of love for life, you create something beautiful, you create an expansion. But what happened on planet Earth, that beings would receive life force, they didn't even know that they received life force. And then they, let's say, expressed anger, hatred, or abuse even, or worse things. And that would distort that life force. And that's what we call karma. It actually just is distorted life force that needs to be now, in a way, liberated. And so how do we liberate all this life force that was misused in the last many thousands of years? Last time when we had a reality reset, it was 12,000 years ago with the big flood, with the deluge. And again, it's a memory that I have of what happened, how it happened, and all the different promises we made to the divine to come back and to assist with the situation on planet Earth so that that never happens again. And so that's why we are here. We would like to have a reset of reality without big deluges. Instead of resetting reality with a cataclysm, it's also possible to reset reality through our own consciousness, and especially if we connect this consciousness with the collective, and to create a whole new network of consciousness around the world to create harmony, balance, and coherence. That is our goal. How do we use and misuse life force? Well, using life force would be like an artist using life force to create a beautiful painting, a piece of art, an expansion of the cosmic body of creation. And misusing life force is pretty clear to all of us, I think, that when we take life force and we are unconscious about it, then again, we unconsciously create something that is incoherent and misqualified. That also counts for the way that we treat our sexuality on planet Earth, also the way that we treat animals. So we have to expand our consciousness to include those two topics. The first topic is a big topic, sexuality actually. as you can imagine, caused a lot of suffering on planet Earth in the last 12,000 years. And of course, I'm just looking at the last cycle that we are in. Anytime we use this life force as sexual energy and we do not use it with the deepest reverence for life or the deepest sense of love, care, compassion, really the deepest love, then we misuse life force. You can imagine how many layers upon layers of misused life force we have on planet Earth from sexual energy. And that is just what happens to all of us in this lifetime. And then there are people that use that life force to actually abuse others, to violate others, to exploit others. And that creates even more so of suffering. So all of that will need to be undone and purged and purified on planet Earth. There is a link between the planetary degradation of environment and the sexual misuse of life force. It's a link that actually is real. When we misuse sexual energy, or if you want to say we actually misuse life force, it doesn't have to be at all sexual because life force is life force. So when we use it in a sexual act and we do not use it with the deepest love and reverence for all life, then that also translates into how the planet is doing. And then the planet starts being depleted, there is environmental degradation, and it is just linked to the misuse of that life force through human sexuality. Same thing applies to animals. How we treat animals. Animals came to planet Earth to be on their own evolutionary cycle, to evolve as species around us, not to serve us and not for us to eat them. And so as long as humans eat animals, or especially treat them the way that we treat them, it creates war on planet Earth. As long as we farm animals, and even farming on Greenland, but killing animals or creating suffering for them when we separate, the babies from the mothers and so on, it's a big industry. Then any suffering in animals that is caused by humans actually leads to the energy of war on planet Earth. And we might not be aware of how this all works, but there are links between all. Since everything's a network, everything's connected, there is the system, everything affects everything. So every thought that you have has an effect on the system. Every emotion that you have has an effect on the system. Every action that we take has an effect on the system. How I use my life force has an effect on everyone. And so now we are stepping into this new cycle. In this new cycle, this is kind of like the pre-New Earth cycle, this time and space in between, we will be learning to use life force only consciously. It is not difficult. We've had master beings on planet Earth who really showed us how to use life force constructively 24/7. It's not something that should be too impossible. It actually is possible. It's every choice and every moment. And how do we make choices? Do we make choices from the bottom of our heart with immense love for all life? Or do we feel like we are invisible, nobody can see us, and we can make any choice we want and nobody will be affected? And that counts not only for humans, but also for animals. So this is an invitation to start thinking about how we use life force, how we can make changes. And sometimes changes are not easy. I totally get it. I'm a human being. So I know that we live on a planet where we are part of this network of unconsciousness that affects us every day. But when we rise above it, when we activate our light and light body, we can truly start functioning from this level of mastery that maybe the yogis, many of them, and spiritual teachers showed us. Let us do our best to be the most love we can be, to be the brightest light of consciousness we can be, to keep uplifting all of humanity and planet Earth.